Hey everyone, thank you for watching this video. So in this video, we are going to talk about Hive integration with Data's data observability cloud platform. So in this video, we are going to cover what are the use cases of Hive that we have seen or that Data has seen with different customers of different line of business. Then uh, what are the different enterprise data stack where Hive basically comes to the picture, and the architecture of Data Observability Cloud, where does Hive comes into the picture, and prerequisites of this integration, and then a quick demo about the steps to add Hive as a data source in this platform. So without a further delay, let's get started. So as we know that Hive is a scalable SQL-like data warehousing and analytics platform, which is built on top of Hadoop. Basically, the data resides in Hadoop HDFS, and Hive basically provides a SQL-like query structure where the user can run query and get the or fetch the meta out of fetch the data out of it. So Hive serves different OLAP use cases, and for companies who are into different line of business, different areas. So, for example, Accelerator customers, which are in financial services, uses Hive for compliance queries, then aggregated financial reporting, right? Then CPG companies uses it for demand forecasting, supply chain analytics, sales data warehousing to support operational and strategic decisions. Then telecommunication uses it for consolidating call logs, network usage, and events. Uh, then pharmaceutical and healthcare companies uses it for clinical trial analytics and all of that. So I mean, net, there are different companies uh, that are customers of Axel Data, and they use Hive for different use cases. Then the next slide basically talks about enterprise data stack, right? Where you have some of the sources, for example, streaming sources or app sources, or DBMS sources, file or object storage sources, right? On-prem sources. So you have all the way left, you have all the sources on the left, and then you have some m- stages in your pipeline, which is basically, I'm sorry, which is landing, enrichment, and consumption. And then all the way right, you have some consumption dashboards or MLN AI products or BI products, right? So a Hive can come into the picture of in this picture, actually, Hive can come in landing, enrichment, or consumption, right? Uh, so mostly when you have the data in HDFS, there are jobs that you run on Hive, and you take a uh, analytical data out of it, and you store it into uh, a different table or something, right? So maybe you can use it for enrichment purposes, or maybe when you have the enriched data stored in consumption tables, then you uh, um, connect some BI reports, right, and drive some business decisions out of it. So now mostly you'll find Hive in enrichment and consumption zones, right? And Accelerator can basically offer you to connect Hive as a data source, right? So the net of the the slide here and here is basically covering that Hive can be used by companies of different line of business, and they can use it for enrichment layer or consumption layer. But as Axel Data can provide you a capability to connect Hive as a data source, it is irrespective what line of business the company is in, or where Hive is placed in the enterprise data stack, right? you can, with Axle data, you can connect to the data source and you can run the data quality checks on top of it, right? So if you if you let's say if you're having the Hive in the enrichment zone, right? So you can connect to Hive and you can do the data quality checks on the enriched data, right? Or if it is in consumption, you can do the data quality checks on the consumption layer data, right? So with Axle data, you can do all, you can get all in one visibility. That's number one, and uh, you can run the data quality checks at any hop of your pipeline, not just on the consumption, but basically you can also run it on enrichment or landing, depends where your Hive is placed. So my next slide basically talks about the architecture of the of Accelerator product, where there are two parts of the product. Number one is the control plane, right, which is hosted on cloud, AWS cloud, and which is a multi-tenant SaaS platform, right, where you have the UI of the product hosted, where the user uses the UI to define the policies and it stores the policy on the control plane. And the second part of the product, which also resides on the Kubernetes cluster, but in fact, this resides on the customer environment. So this part of the product, which is the control plane, is completely hosted and managed by Accelerator, whereas the second part of the product, which is the data plane, which also gets installed into the Kubernetes cluster, but this will be completely hosted and managed by the customer. The reason being that is because the customer has their data sources on their VPC, and in order to observe the data of their data sources, there is a compute layer which is present, which is basically spinned up to observe the data, to basically get the data into that compute layer and then observe it here and only send the metadata out of it. So how does it work is basically you define the policies on the control plane, and when you trigger, or whether you manually trigger or whether you trigger it by automated things. So the policies gets triggered on the data plane, right, which becomes a Spark job for this Kubernetes cluster. And this data plane gets the registered connectivity to your data sources, for example, Hive here, right? So using, I'll talk about how to register, but this gets the registered connectivity. Uh, so when you submit a Spark job, or when you submit a policy, it becomes a Spark job. That job basically consumes the data. It fetches the data from the Hive data source. It brings the data into the data plane. It observes it here, and based on how many records that it has fetched, and it has scanned, and how many records are good records or bad records, how much time it has taken to basically check the quality of the data. All of these metadata and matrices goes to the control plane, not the actual data that is on Hive, right? So when the data is observed here, it gets flushed here, or you can, for your further purposes, you can also store it in storage, in different storages as well. So inside the same VPC. So that's about the architecture. So we are going to basically talk about this registered connectivity. How do you register this connectivity on Accelerator platform? So let's move to the next slide here. Before I talk about how do you do it, I'll cover the prerequisites part, right? So in order to onboard Hive as a data source in ADOC, you need JDBC URL, Metastore JDBC URL with hostname and port, and then you need Metastore credentials, username and password. You also need Hive server JDBC URL with its credential in case if it is Hive 3. And you also need to whitelist the communication between Hive host and ADOC data plane. What do I mean by that? Is basically this. Because this is going to be a new cluster or maybe a shared cluster, right? And this is going to be a new communication established to be established between this Kubernetes cluster and the Hive data source. So we have seen with many customers that there is always a firewall around the data sources, around the data, right? So in order to make this communication work, right? You need to whitelist the data plane or the Kubernetes VPC in the Hive or the data source firewall so that ADOC can register the connectivity, right? So there is a detailed documentation also available in Axel Data. So you can click on the link here, or you can refer to uh, this link here that's written here as well. So when you open that, basically you will be landed to this page where it explains each step one by one and what do you need in what format. Like for example, GDBC URL you need in this format and what else, right? So basically, this is what we are going to do in the demo now. So let's go into the product and let's see how do you onboard it into the product. So this is the landing. No, this is not the landing, but this is the register page of Axel Data where you have a data sources tab, you have data plane tab, and then you have resource groups. So consider this that you already have the data plane running in this environment, right? There are multiple data planes running here. Uh, so in order to onboard any new data source, so Accelerator has a wide variety of connectors available from data catalog tools to data reliability to data sources where you just want to run data reliability, or you want to do compute and data reliability both, or you just want to connect to the BI tools for backward lineage and all of that. So uh, it has around 40 to 45 connectors out of the box already here, right? And if you just want to connect Hive, so you click on Hive and then you and name the name the sorry, connection here, right? And then you enable this toggle button. As soon as you enable this, you will be asked to select a data plane because we are registering the connectivity between the data plane to the data source. So you select any one of these, right? And then you go to the next. So after that, here you need to provide the GDBC URL of the metastore, username, password, the cluster name, the Hive connection, whether it is default or Hive 3. If you're giving Hive 3, then in case of Hive 3, it asks for JDBC URL of the Hive server and then the credentials like username and password for it. So there is a connection which is already done here in Excel data demo environment. So I can just, so this is the connection name and this is the data plane which is selected. And when you go next, so this is the URL in this format. And here you have the host name and the port name and the database name, all of this defined. Cluster name, mm, the name of the cluster where to which the Hive is part of, and and uh, this was Hive 3, so you also needed the GDBC URL that's also given here, and then the username password. So you do test connection, it will give you a green signal that it is connected like this, and then you can go to the next page here. So this is basically the option. You'll get a drop down on that. You just required, so you are just required to select the databases to which you want this registered connectivity to be placed, right? So for example, if you just want to connect accelerator to these three tables, so I have just selected these three. Or maybe if I just want to include one more, I can later come here to the same configuration page and add or remove selections here. And then you have slots, how many slots that you have, and then you have crawler scheduling option and if the crawler fails, then you have the notification uh, capability as well, that you can notify the user, right user who needs to know if the crawler failed. So but what is crawler? I'll just cover that very quickly. So crawler is a job when you run sorry when you make a connection to any of the data sources, and when you run crawler, it fetches the metadata. What is the metadata that it fetches? It basically fetches the schema related information. How many databases are there, what are the name of those databases, how many columns are there, how many tables are there, how many schemas are there, what are the name of those, right? A basic property of those, right? It fetches in a very minimal time, based on how large is your data source, right? So when you just submit this, it will ask for a manual run, or you can also have it scheduled like this. So just okay. So I need to disable this. Okay. So start crawler. So as soon as you click on start crawler and go to the data resources, you can also opt for not starting the crawler if you're just making some connection change and the crawler is already uh, scheduled to run on hourly or daily or weekly basis. You can opt not to trigger the crawler. So now I can basically filter out here based on my connection name. This is Hive. This is fully crawled a minute ago. This is quickly completed. And when you just click on it, it says that, okay, these are the databases, these are the tables, these are the count of it, this is the column count, right? A basic information of that. But before that, let me just show you where you can also check the status of it. So you click on this icon here, which takes you to the status of that job, right? So this is the job name, which is fully completed. It started at this time, ended at this, it will take around 10 seconds to complete, right? So that's just the status of the crawler job. And when you just click on it, you get this status. And if you further want to click on the list of tables and just want to scan, okay, what are my tables? Those are basically now connected to Excel data, is basically this, right? And now further from here, you can create policies. Let's say this is the table telecom data, and you want to now create some data quality policy or reconciliation policy or freshness policy. You can just click on this configure button here. It says that though no policies are configured here. When you just click on it, it will take you to the configuration page, which will be covered in a different video. So what we have just covered here is from the prerequisites, we went into the demo, we have looked into the documentation, and on the demo side, we have covered basically how to start the registration of the data sources, add the data source, uh, name the connection, enable data reliability, select the data plane, provide the JDBC URL of the Metastore and Hive server, right? And select the data places, provide the slots, and start the crawler. Once the crawler completes, verify that in ADA that it is completed successfully, and then you can check for uh, the asset and the lineage and everything, right? So yeah, so this is what I wanted to cover in this video. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. Thank you for watching this.